Welcome to our channel. Listen to short audiobooks every day and improve yourself.
Kim Scott, Radical Respect. How to work together better. Labeling a workplace as toxic because of bias, bullying, prejudice, harassment, or discrimination is easy. But the label also makes it look like these behaviors combine into a single force of nature with no easy solutions. The truth is, each type of behavior arises from a distinct cause and requires a different solution. For instance, while bias often stems from unconscious assumptions, prejudice involves conscious negative attitudes toward others. Bullying, on the other hand, is a deliberate act of aggression designed to intimidate or control. Explores the nuances of toxic behaviors and how to address each one. By approaching bias, prejudice, discrimination, harassment, and bullying with understanding and intentionality, you can foster a culture of respect, inclusion, and growth in your personal and professional spheres. Get ready to dive in and learn how to make a positive impact. Understanding toxic. You've probably experienced it yourself. A workplace that feels toxic, where negativity, mistrust, and conflict seem to be the norm. Maybe it's a boss who belittles employees, a colleague who spreads rumors, or a team that consistently excludes certain members. Whatever the specifics, a toxic workplace can take a heavy toll on your well-being, productivity, and even your personal life. Imagine this scenario. You're in a meeting where a coworker, let's call him Jack, consistently interrupts and dismisses the ideas of a quieter colleague, Sarah. When you try to address the issue with Jack directly, telling him to stop interrupting Sarah, he gets defensive and accuses you of playing favorites. The interruptions continue and Sarah becomes more withdrawn. You're at a loss for what to do next. This example highlights a common mistake, using the same approach for different types of toxic behavior. Interrupting others is a form of bullying, while dismissing someone's ideas could be rooted in bias or prejudice. Each requires a distinct response. By confronting Jack without understanding the underlying issue, you risk escalating the situation and further alienating Sarah. Another force in workplace toxicity are power dynamics, which can amplify toxic behaviors. When leaders engage in or tolerate toxic behavior, it sends a message that such conduct is acceptable. Imagine a supervisor who regularly makes off-color jokes and insults. Employees may feel pressure to laugh along or stay silent, fearing repercussions if they speak up. Over time, this creates a culture where disrespect and discrimination flourish. So, how can you navigate these complex situations and work toward a healthier, more inclusive workplace? Well, the first step is to recognize the different forms the toxicity can take. Bias, prejudice, discrimination, harassment, and bullying are all toxic, but they manifest in distinct ways and require tailored responses. In the following chapters, we'll dive deeper into each of these toxic behaviors. You'll learn how to spot the signs of bias, prejudice, and bullying in yourself and others. You'll also discover specific strategies for addressing each one, from using I statements to express the impact of bias to employing it statements to call out bullying without attacking the person. By understanding the nuances of toxic behavior and equipping yourself with targeted tools, you can become a powerful agent for positive change in your workplace. Whether you're a leader looking to create a more inclusive culture or an individual contributor navigating difficult dynamics, you have the power to make a difference. Confronting bias. Bias is a sneaky thing. It's an unconscious preference or prejudice that can color our judgment and decision-making without us even realizing it. We all have biases, and they can be based on anything from age, gender, and race to education, appearance, and background. In the workplace, bias can lead to unfair treatment, missed opportunities, and a toxic environment. Imagine you're part of a team tasked with hiring a new manager. As you review resumes, you find yourself drawn to candidates who went to a private university like yours. You might not even notice that you're giving them extra points in your mental assessment until a colleague points it out to you. This is an example of affinity bias, the tendency to favor people who are like you in some way. Now, picture a performance review where a supervisor praises an employee for being assertive and confident while criticizing another for being too aggressive. The difference? The first employee is a man, while the second is a woman. This is a classic case of gender bias, where the same behavior is perceived differently based on gender stereotypes. So, how can you recognize bias in yourself? Start by paying attention to your automatic thoughts and reactions. When you meet someone new or encounter a new situation, notice any snap judgments or assumptions that pop up. Ask yourself, are these based on facts or feelings? Are you giving everyone a fair chance, or are you letting stereotypes influence your perceptions? To spot bias in others, look for patterns of behavior or decision-making that consistently favor or disadvantage certain groups. Do some people consistently get better assignments, more praise, or faster promotions than others? Are diverse perspectives being sought out and valued, or is there a tendency to stick with the status quo? Now, when you identify bias in yourself, the first thing you need to do is acknowledge it without judgment. Remember, having biases doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you human. The key is to catch yourself and consciously shift your thinking. For example, you might tell yourself, I noticed I was assuming that a candidate wouldn't be a good fit because they didn't go to an Ivy League school. Let me try to look at their actual qualifications more objectively. If you notice bias in others, it's important to speak up, but to do so with care and respect. Use I statements to express the impact of biased actions or comments. For instance, you might say, I felt uncomfortable when you made that generalization about older workers. I've found that age doesn't determine someone's tech-savvy or innovative thinking. By focusing on your own experiences and perceptions, you can raise awareness without putting others on the defensive. Tackling prejudice and the discrimination it causes. Prejudice and discrimination are two sides of the same coin, and they can create a toxic cocktail in the workplace. Prejudice is all about negative attitudes or beliefs about a particular group of people, often based on stereotypes or assumptions. It's the feeling that certain people are inferior or undesirable because of their race, gender, age, religion, or other characteristics. Discrimination, on the other hand, is the action that stems from prejudice. It's when those negative beliefs lead to unfair treatment, like passing over someone for a promotion because of their age, or excluding someone from a project because of their accent. Discrimination is illegal in many cases, but that doesn't stop it from happening. Imagine this situation. You're part of a diverse team working on a high-stakes project. One team member, let's call her Maria, consistently has her ideas dismissed or credited to others. When she tries to assert herself, she's labeled as overly emotional or aggressive. Meanwhile, her male colleagues are praised for their assertiveness and leadership. This is a classic example of gender bias leading to discriminatory behavior. Now picture another scenario. A coworker, David, makes a joke about a job candidate's name, saying it's too hard to pronounce. When the candidate isn't hired, David implies it's because they wouldn't fit in with the company culture. This is prejudice that turns into action and creates discrimination in the hiring process. So, how can you recognize prejudice in yourself? Start by examining your own assumptions and beliefs. Do you find yourself making snap judgments about people based on their appearance, background, or identity? Do you tend to favor or feel more comfortable with people who are similar to you? These can be signs of unconscious bias that can lead to prejudiced attitudes. Now, to spot discrimination, look for patterns of unfair treatment or disparate outcomes. Are certain groups of people consistently being left out, passed over, or held to different standards? Are offensive comments or jokes being brushed off as harmless fun? These are red flags that discrimination may be at play. If you identify prejudice in your own thinking, challenge yourself to look beyond stereotypes and see people as individuals. Seek out diverse perspectives and experiences to broaden your understanding. If you notice discriminatory behavior in others, speak up using you statements to highlight the consequences of their actions. For example, you might say, when you said that candidate wouldn't fit in, it sounded like you were making assumptions based on their background. That kind of bias can lead to unfair hiring practices. Remember, confronting prejudice and discrimination takes courage and persistence. You may face resistance or defensiveness from others, but by consistently calling out bias and advocating for fairness, you can help create a workplace where everyone has an equal chance to succeed. The dangers of bullying. Bullying is a particularly insidious form of toxic behavior in the workplace. It's not just about one-off incidents of rudeness or conflict. It's a pattern of targeted, repeated mistreatment that can leave victims feeling isolated, degraded, and powerless. Bullying can take many forms, from overt aggression and intimidation to more subtle tactics like exclusion, sabotage, or withholding information. Imagine you're in a team meeting where the project leader, Mark, singles out a junior colleague, Emily, for harsh criticism. He belittles her work, rolls his eyes when she speaks, and makes snide comments about her lack of experience. This happens week after week, and you notice Emily becoming more anxious and withdrawn. When you try to offer support, she brushes it off, saying, she doesn't want to rock the boat. This is a textbook example of bullying, a sustained campaign of mistreatment that's not only affecting Emily's well-being, but also her ability to contribute to the team. And when bullying goes unchecked, it can create a climate of fear and toxicity that spreads throughout the organization. So how can you spot bullying in yourself and others? One key sign is a consistent pattern of negative behavior toward a particular person or group. This could include yelling, name-calling, or physical intimidation. But it can also be more indirect, like consistently ignoring someone's input or setting them up for failure. Another red flag is a power imbalance between the bully and their target. Bullies often exploit their position or seniority to control or demean others. They may also enlist allies to gang up on their victim, or use their influence to isolate them from support. If you recognize bullying behavior in yourself, the first step is to take responsibility and commit to change. Seek out resources or coaching to help you develop healthier ways of communicating and managing conflict. If you witness bullying in others, it's crucial to speak up, even if the bully is in a position of power. Use it statements to focus on the behavior, not the person. For example, it concerns me when I see someone being singled out for criticism in every meeting. It creates an atmosphere where people are afraid to speak up. When confronting a bully, be specific about the behaviors you've observed and the impact they're having on the team or organization. Emphasize that everyone deserves to be treated with respect and that bullying will not be tolerated. If the behavior persists, escalate the issue to HR or higher level management. Ending harassment. Bullying and harassment are two sides of the same toxic coin in the workplace. While bullying is about a pattern of mistreatment that leaves victims feeling degraded and powerless, harassment is a form of bullying that specifically targets someone based on their protected characteristics, like race, gender, age, or sexual orientation. Harassment can include offensive jokes, slurs, epithets, name-calling, physical assaults or threats, intimidation, ridicule, insults, or offensive pictures or objects. Imagine another scenario. A new employee, Priya, joins your team. She wears a hijab, and you notice that some of your colleagues make derogatory comments about her religion behind her back. One coworker, Steve, repeatedly asks her if she's a terrorist, claiming it's a joke. When Priya tries to report the behavior to her supervisor, she's told to ignore it and that Steve's comments are just good-natured ribbing. But this is a clear example of harassment based on religion, and it's creating a hostile work environment for Priya. The fact that her concerns are being dismissed by leadership only compounds the problem, sending the message that this kind of behavior is tolerated or even condoned. What can you do to identify harassment in your workplace? One key sign is language or behavior that demeans, humiliates, or threatens someone based on their identity. This could include racial slurs, sexist jokes, homophobic comments, or mocking someone's accent or disability. Another red flag is unwanted physical contact or invasion of personal space, like touching someone inappropriately or hanging offensive pictures in their workspace. Harassment can also take the form of quid pro quo, where someone in a position of power demands sexual favors or other concessions in exchange for job benefits or advancement. If you find yourself engaging in harassing behavior, even unintentionally, it's crucial to take responsibility and change course immediately. Educate yourself about what constitutes harassment and practice empathy and respect for others' boundaries and identities. If you witness harassment in others, speak up using it statements to call out the behavior without attacking the person. You might say something like, "It's never okay to make jokes about someone's religion. It creates a disrespectful and hostile environment." When addressing harassment, be specific about the behaviors you've observed, as well as the harm they're causing. Make it clear that harassment is not only unacceptable, but also illegal, and that there will be consequences for those who engage in it. Remember, combating harassment requires ongoing vigilance and commitment from everyone in the organization. By calling out harassing behavior, supporting victims, and modeling respect and inclusivity, you can help create an environment where everyone feels safe, valued, and free to be their authentic selves. That's one more step toward clearing the toxicity from your workplace. The main takeaway of this Radical Respect by Kim Scott is that toxic workplace behaviors like bias, prejudice, discrimination, bullying, and harassment may seem similar, but they have distinct causes and require targeted solutions. Start by recognizing them in yourself and others, paying attention to patterns of unfair treatment, exclusion, or aggression. When confronting these behaviors, use I statements to express the impact of bias, you statements to highlight the consequences of discrimination, and it statements to call out bullying and harassment without attacking the person. Creating a respectful and inclusive workplace requires ongoing commitment and courage from everyone. But by understanding the nuances of toxic behaviors and using the right tools, you can become a powerful agent of positive change.